my first reaction was, this is me. Now I remember. How did I ever think I was that thing? This is who I am. And I was I went ice climbing in Western Canada and Banff Provincial Park. I was an outdoors guy, National Ski Patrol, been snow caving since I was a Boy Scout, mountain climbing, rock climbing, first time ice climbing. Had a lead climber who was experienced. We went up a world famous climb, maybe 500 feet, 3 pitches up, and made a mistake with my equipment to begin with. Thought that I could climb with an axe and a hammer at the same rate of speed as other people with a couple of axes, which turned out to be false. And so our climb was very slow, and by the time we reached the top of the pitch, it was sunset. Temperature dropped as the sun went down, hypothermia set in. Immediately, we were in a desperate situation and knew it. Decided that we were going to either die trying to stay warm there, canoodled up against the mountain, or die trying to get off. And we decided that we would try to get off the mountain. And so it was a harrowing night, frostbite, hypothermia to the extreme. And on our last pitch, just before dawn, after fighting our way across the mountain all night, I succumbed to the final stages of hypothermia. We were clipped into the mountain on harnesses, on straps with iron pins and rings into the granite. We were off the ice, and Tim was to my left, my lead partner, my leading partner, and my friend. And my temperature soared on my skin, which basically meant that my core was flooding my extremities to prevent them from falling off. And it creates a false sense of heat, which, even though I knew better, having been trained as a first responder, I unzipped my coat and it's sub-zero out. And my temperature core dropped even faster, and I began to fall asleep. I'd wake up after having collapsed to the rock, try to pull on the stuck rope again and again, but I'd let go of one of the ends of the rope and the other was tied to me, and I couldn't free it. And to collect it would have meant climbing back up and likely falling 150 feet. So we left the rope as it was, and I tried to tug on it, but I kept falling asleep. I pulled myself back up this last time after falling asleep, and as I stood up, I got what's called tunnel vision. Peripheral vision began to fill in with black and a circle, and faded to black very rapidly to out. And I was in darkness, but unlike falling asleep, I maintained my consciousness. You know, when you fall asleep, you lose your consciousness, but I knew that I was awake, and I was in this darkness, and I felt myself collapse, but I didn't feel myself hit the rock. And suddenly in front of me was a great expanse of even darker darkness that extended as far as I could see and as wide as I could see, and far, far in the distance, and I'd never seen anything like it. It's not just like standing on a wicked dark night looking out at the ocean on a starless, moonless night. It's like different than that. It's that plus times 1,000. And so way far, far in the almost infinite distance, I saw and I'm going to speak in metaphor now because I really don't have any other tools than that. So I saw like a pinprick of light that came rushing toward me, that filled from a great distance, faster than the speed of light, and infilled the entire visual that I had. But it wasn't just light, it was like an amorphous intelligence that communicated directly to me without any sort of matter. There was no physicality to this. And it said to me without language, "I'm taking you." And I resisted because I didn't know what was going on. I was, can't say I was frightened, but I was strongly resistant because I didn't understand the circumstance. And this thing rushed right to me and communicated, "I'm taking you," and plucked me right out of myself and carried me up through with a proverbial tunnel, but the tunnel was wide and narrow at the same time, like infinitely wide and small enough to contain us, but not one or the other. It was both. And this entity carried me, and I was comforted. I was unafraid. I was confused, but I was not lost. And I suddenly emerged into this greater infinite darkness that was also illuminated. So these two things at once, and the entity, the angel, vanished, and I was left alone as what I describe as an orb of consciousness that's 10,000 times bigger than my body. And I was completely content. My first reaction was, this is me. Now I remember. How did I ever think I was that thing? This is who I am. And I was I had no matter, no energy, no atoms, no molecules, no photons, no electrons, and that sort of stuff. I was just consciousness, but it also contained all of my senses. So I was brain, I was thinking, I was eyeball and ear and sensories, but I was less Peter. And I could see in every direction at once, and there was like a portal opened in front of me, if I had a front, which I didn't, but like a doorway or a gateway, but it opened up into this long arcing, infinitely arcing tunnel that was somehow inside of and separate from, but part of this greater eternity that I was in. And there was this flowing sheen that was transparent, I could see through, and translucent, I could see the sheen at the same time. And it was a flow, and I touched this flow with my self, my soul, consciousness, and it was all life. It was all life of all the universe and all the universes and all life there ever was and will be. And it flowed into me, and I tell this like in a sequence, but this is a place of timelessness, which means all time and no time, all time in one space and no time whatsoever. So it's really hard to describe it. I choose to describe it sequentially, and if only for my own sanity. So I touched this thing, and it inflowed into me, and it called my name, but not Peter. It called the name of my soul, that in which I could hear the creation of my being from aeons ago. I could see the long tail of my existence, of my soul, which was not Peter. And I could see the very creation of myself as a photon that was wave and particle, as part of the light itself, but separate and the same as, but distinct from. And I could see that I had other lives, but I couldn't see what they were, and I couldn't see whether they were sequential or simultaneous. But I also knew that they weren't me, that the real me was the soul that contained them. They were little tiny, like toothpicks, stuck inside this much larger, everlasting soul. And I heard my name called. I saw myself as creator. I saw myself as creature, made even in my soul substance, in my consciousness, by creator, who I could not see, who spoke inside me, who then showed me all of the pain that I'd given away in my entire life from the point of view, life review. But mine, which is different than others, mine was I suffered all the pain I gave away in my entire life from the point of view of the people I gave it to. I intended to give it to, and I didn't intend to give it to. And I felt that. I felt their pain, and it turns out that all the pain that I gave them was about 10,000. I keep using 10,000 because it's like some huge unimaginable number that you multiply all the pain you ever gave away to somebody times, and I suffered all of that, their pain, plus times 10,000. Turns out that I gave it to me, and that they suffered a little bit, I suffered mostly, and it was juxtaposed to all my reasons for causing them pain. And the voice was saying inside me without sound, no gender, no language, I love you. It was showing me love. It was bringing me into love. It was expressing to me eternal love it's unimaginable, incomprehensible. I love you. I've always known you. I've always known these things about you. I've known you since you were created. I've known the long tail of your soul. I know what you were like to be a human being in this life. I love you as you are. I made you. I've always known you. I've always loved you. And I was going through this suffering of all the suffering I gave away, but I was also being, and I call it my own hell. I created my own hell, like Jacob Marley and the Christmas, link by link. I also judged myself as shameful, not because of what I had done, because it was also shown simultaneously that it wasn't my fault that I caused pain. That's a natural outgrowth of being a human being in this world. It's just the way it is. And every human being causes pain to other human beings and to themselves. And that's just the way it is. And that's a known thing by the divine. God knows this about us. And so I carried home to heaven with me all the love that had been given to me and all the love that had been given away, that I gave away is like a treasure. And somehow it helped me turn my inner eye to the holy divine, and was, burned clean by the divine fire of purgative love. When I had no more things I did not need, it wasn't like they were bad. It was like, you don't need them, and here's how to get rid of them. And once they were gone, I was filled with this combination of truth, joy, knowledge, bliss, understanding, compassion, hope, adoration, awe, paradise. The list is long, but they weren't all separate things. They're all one thing. And the one word that I would use to encapsulate it all, two words: beauty and love. Emphasis on the last. And it goes on from there. I mean, I could stop right there or I could tell you how I came back and what happened next. But when I came back, I chose to come back. I was welcome to stay in heaven, but I chose to come back. And when I came back, he told me that he thought I was dead, that I had been dead. You'd been dead. You were dead. To me, God is not a thing to be believed in. I know God is real. I know where I'm from. I know where I'm going. But more importantly, I know that I'm known by the knower of all. And I can't ever turn away from that. It's not something that ever shuts off. Even when I'm asleep, it's still going. And so in addition to having no belief and no faith, I don't have any doubt. I am doubtless and completely unafraid of death, because I know where I'm going.